Greetings, Narcis.
Greetings, Tanasha. You good? Can you hear me?
I'm good. Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Good, good. It's really good to be back, hey?
Yes, it's been quite a while since we've done this.
Yeah. So today we just cooked up some a quick episode to share with the others and see what we can come up with, basically.
Okay, okay.
Awesome, man. Go ahead and start.
So we can get started.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yes.
So today, we like I said, we're just doing a quick short episode. Um, we'll be making a text analysis. Classifying, making an application to classify text using code. That's what we're doing right now. And I have to say that I'm gonna do just a little bit of recap where we left off last time, and then we're gonna pick it up from there. Just um, a very quick recap. I won't take that long. Do you remember what we did last time, Tinashe? Um, okay, looks like Tinashe is muted. Just continue quickly. So basically,
Sorry,
um,
my connection's been.
I see. Um, so basically, last time we spoke about natural language processing, and we spoke that we mentioned that natural language processing is the capability for a computer to interpret written or spoken language, or in other words, and for a device or our smart devices to understand the human language and interpret it and make sense of it. Basically, in a simple definition, that's what it is. As you can read in the slides, and then we went about talking about text analysis, translator text, speech, and Lewis language understanding intelligence servers, and we spoke about all the examples, etc. And then we focused on the text analysis. We started off with text analysis. We looked at the techniques that are there for text analysis. And then we started to analyze text with the text analysis service, which you're going to use today, right now, in the coming few minutes. And that's what we're doing right now. So what exactly is text analysis? The text analysis service. So the text analysis service is basically a cloud-based service that provides advanced natural language processing over raw text analysis, key phrase extraction, named entity recognition, and language detection. So basically, in a summary, based on what I just said, is just analyzes text for us. As human beings, we can analyze text, tell this and this and this, but it will analyze text for us, as you can see in the definition. And what about the text analysis service? Yeah, we see it in action on social media, on document searches, and etc. As you can see through the examples, but not really focus on that. And lastly, we got where is it actually used and how is it actually used? So we see that how to get started with a text analysis service on Azure, you need a subscription on Azure. You need the text analysis resource and a cognitive service resource, which we'll be using right now. What are some of the things that we can be that we'll be able to do with text analysis on Azure? We can do language detection, ambiguous or mixed language content, sentiment analysis, interdominant sentiment, key phrase extraction, and entity recognition. And that's where I'm going to stop with that presentation, with that small recap, as I mentioned earlier on. And then we're going to move on to Azure. As I said, that we're making an application for it. So quickly going to move on to Azure. So as you can see on my screen, I hope the text is visible, or must I zoom in even more? As you can see on my screen, um, this is the documentation that we use to like see and prepare the content that you for your guys, as you can see. So now, as you can see, Azure Cognitive Service for Language is very broad. There's a lot of things available to you. You can extract information, classify text, answer question, understand conversation, and translate text. So now we can make all of these things using code. And like, I didn't even know where to start or how to start or prepare today's session. So today we're gonna just start with a simple one, which is classified text over here. So we're gonna analyze the sentiment and mind for text or opinions, detect languages, and do a custom text classification. We'll do that next week, but we'll only focus on the first two for today's session. So what is exactly sentiment and mind option? Let me click that for a quick definition. So basically, sentiment analysis, we're analyzing what the person is saying, what the like what the person is trying to say, how the person is feeling with what they just said. Basically, as you can see, it's the sentiment analysis. Um, Sentiment, as I mentioned, sentiment analysis analyzes or tries to figure out how the person is feeling, or what is the person feeling when they made that statement or when they said what they had to say. And then and now you're trying to see whether there was a positive comment, a negative comment, or a neutral comment. So was it a good feedback, was it a bad feedback, or was it a neutral in between? And then it gives a score between 0 and 1. So if it gives 1, that means it was a positive statement. If it gives 0, that means it was a negative statement. If it gives in between, that means it was a neutral. And then opinion mining is a feature in sentiment analysis to give us more information about the sentiment that has been analyzed. Basically, that was its opinion mining. And last but not least, language detection in simplicity. As it says, we're trying to detect what type of language or the language being mentioned in the text over there. So that's a quick theory of what we'll be doing. Um, I think Tinashe will leave the questions for the end, so I can just quickly do say what I need to say for today's session. So basically, now I've hopped onto Azure, as you can see it, for us to get started. So you log onto your Azure portal, and we're gonna get started from there. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you have to create your language resource, as we mentioned earlier on. So you're gonna come here and search. Let me zoom in. Gonna search language, right? And it's going to appear over their language. So we're making a text analysis. We're going to analyze sentiment, how the person is feeling with what they just said. And we're also going to detect languages using code. So basically making it just a small application to detect languages and analyze the sentiment. So now I'm clicking language to create it. I don't know why it's not working. Um, okay, it's loading. I do not know why it's loading. Come on. Let me refresh. Okay, it's loading. Sorry about that. So the text analysis. Let me open it properly. Please. Okay, it is not opening up properly. Um, yeah, but it's loading. So this is the text analysis service basically which I created earlier on, but I wanted to create it from scratch for you to see how exactly to create it. But I don't know, the network is Azure is acting up for some reason, for some odd reason. So you basically click language, right? Or let me do it over here. Just give me 1 minute. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Create language resource. Okay, so there's the page that I wanted to go to. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading. Um, okay, there you go. So you see when you click language resource, right? When you click, you search language and you click it, it's gonna lead you to something over here. Create your language which what you want. So you're gonna say custom questioning and answer or custom text classification and extraction. So basically you trying to see, you have to define what exactly are you trying to do. So you're gonna select both of them, continue to create your resource. You're gonna name your put your name your resource group. You're gonna name your application your resource that you're creating. You're gonna choose the tier, the pricing tier S0. You're gonna choose your location, your pricing F for free because doing for free, and then you're gonna create a storage account because every time you train your text, you need somewhere to store it. You're gonna just name it and press OK at the end of a year. You're gonna press OK at the end of a day, and then after that, it should be created, and you should have something like this, which I already have created. Just a quick overview of what I did. So now, once you already created, you're gonna need your endpoint for you to access the resource that we just created over here, as you can see. So now there's my resources created. Now I'm just gonna hop onto Azure for me to, I mean, Visual Studio for me to 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 get started with the code. Just a second. Any questions so far, Tinashe? Um, any question?
Yes, Narcis. So far it sounds all very interesting. So I'm wondering. So the sentiment analysis, it and the opinion analysis, it works based on certain words picked out, right? And what those words generally mean. Would I be right in my
Uh,
assumption?
can you repeat sentiment and opinion? I didn't quite get
Yeah.
it.
In terms of the
Um,
sentiment analysis, does it work
mm,
based on assessing what the meaning of a word might be, like the connotation of a word? So, for example, um, nice would mean good, for example, like a positive sentiment. Would I be right in
yes,
making that assumption?
yes. So
So,
basically, it. Okay, may continue before I answer.
no, no, continue, and then I'll add on.
Okay, so basically, with that example that you mentioned, nice and good, those are like positive words. So it already picks it up that, hey, this is a positive statement. The person who was saying this was feeling positive, you know. But now, if I say bad, angry, or sad, these are negative words, it already picks it up based on the words as you mentioned. I hope that makes sense. Basically, it just takes a look at the word and gives it a scale, whether it's 1 or 0, positive or negative. That's what it basically does, and tries to understand how the person was feeling when they said what they said. What they
Okay,
said.
so what happens with words? What happens with words that are dependent on context? So, like you said, bad has negative connotations, but there are some instances in which the word bad is used in a positive light, as well as the word sick, which usually has a negative connotation, can also be used in a positive context.
Hmm.
Has the program adapted to such instances?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure, but we can find out.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
what you can do in the meantime, with the two words that you've just mentioned, think of like a sentence, a positive sentence for using sick, and a negative sentence using sick or bad, one of those two, right? And then once we make the application, we're gonna test it. How does that sound?
We can do that, yes.
Awesome. So while Tinashe is doing that, you just do a quick test. Once we finish with the code, we go back to Visual Studio. As you can see, Visual Studio 2022 is officially out, and you can get it, you can download it. We're gonna create a um, console application, and then we're gonna name it Natural Test, Natural Test, and then paste in the same. .NET 5 and .NET 6 as well is also out. Be on the lookout for that. There's so many awesome technologies that have been released by Microsoft this past few days, and if you're not keeping up to date, you are missing out on a lot of awesome stuff. So the application is loading, and then I will start with the code. So the Visual Studio is open on my side, this side. So as you can see, a very blank application. I've zoomed in so that you can see what I'll be coding as well. I've already done the application, so I won't bore you with me typing the application or typing the code. I'll just be cutting and pasting, basically. I'll be cutting and pasting. So first thing we're gonna do is gonna go to the NuGet package console. So you're gonna come to tools, right? And tools, you go to NuGet package manager. Click on it. My bad, the system is trying to respond. And then NuGet package for solutions. You're gonna click that, and then you're gonna go to browse. So what we're doing now is downloading the artificial intelligence API for us to use in our application, for the text analysis API by Microsoft for us to use in our application. Basically, that's what we're doing. So you're gonna search for text analysis. Should pick up searching. You see Azure.ai.text analytics and analytics. You're gonna click on it and then install it in your application, as I'm doing. It's installing. So basically it's an API that we use by Microsoft that enables us to use this in our application. Just accept all the terms and conditions. Um, accept the terms and the conditions. So now the application has been installed in my application in our application that we just created. And now we're going back to the code. Um, awesome. So as you can see, one of the new features of Visual Studio or .NET 6, of Visual Studio is the 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 the, the discarding of the namespaces. There's no namespaces that's there on top. It's already it's already there, but we can't see it. It's already there, but we can't see it. There's only one namespace which is using system. So I can analyze all these new features that have come out, but we don't have time, so I'll just stick to today's session. Stick to today's session. PC is loading. Um, so far, what have you gotten so far from the session, Tinashe? Um, just experiencing some glitchy over on my side.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying anything that you've noticed or also want to add on to what I've just said or what we've been talking about, because I'm experiencing some glitches on my side. Can you hear me? So, okay, it looks like Tinashe just left. So, back to the code. As I said, we're just copying and pasting. So the first thing we're gonna do is call out our namespaces. That's what we're gonna do first. Call out our namespaces and call out our namespaces. Call out our namespaces. So the first thing we're gonna do is call out our namespaces. As I said, we're gonna say using Azure and using uh, Azure.ai.text analysis. Those are the first thing that we're gonna do. Call out our namespaces using Azure and then using Azure.ai.text analysis. That's the first thing we're gonna do. Declare our namespaces. Declare our namespaces for us to use. So those are the first two things we're gonna need. in our application. Make some good space over there. And then the next thing that we're gonna need is to create a variable for our endpoints and our keys. So we're gonna have to fetch it from Azure. So we have to put it somewhere, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna create uh, um, we're gonna create a variables for us to put it in. I put it in the wrong place. As you can see now, these are the variables where we're gonna put in our key for that we're gonna our key that we get from Azure and our endpoint that we get from Azure. So that's the variable that we created first. And then after that, you're gonna create a method, right? A method that will analyze the text. So pay attention carefully. And I create a method that will analyze the text, as you can see. So here's the method for detecting the sentiment from the text, right? So first thing you do, we enter the text that we want. Usually, you allow the user to enter whatever text they want, but this is already pre-written in a string. I had the best day of my life. I wish you are here. You are there with me, and then we tell it to we attach the sentiment, or we bring it to the Azure so that you can start working on it. Basically, that's what the second line means. And then after that, we say console the right line, uh, output whatever sentiment that was analyzed on Azure. It brings it feedback, and we just output it. And then after that, this is the mining one that we're talking about to find out more information about the sentiment that we just got. So here's the text that was what that was used, the sentiment, and then the result, whether it was a positive, negative, or neutral. So basically more details about the text that we just analyzed. So now what we're gonna do with that simple instruction that with that simple method that I just showed you, we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. Um, Let me just zoom out a little bit. Zoom out a little bit. So there we go again. So now we are detecting opinion text, right? So basically, this is the method to detect opinion text, right? So trying to detect the sentiment analysis from an opinion, what the person was saying in the opinion. For example, that food and service were unacceptable, but the concierge were nice. So now we're dealing with opinions. So first thing we're gonna do is um, let's see if Tinashe is back. Tinashe is back. Okay, Tinashe is back. Let's quickly finish with the code. So as I was explaining, documents. So first of all, we're gonna need our text. As we said, this is already pre-written. You can simply create a variable, ask the user whatever they want, and
Hello?
you can use it.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I can hear you, Tinashe. Welcome back. Welcome back. Um, so you see all these uses, it comes by itself. I just asked it to import it for me, and the error is gone, as you can see. So as I was saying, that we first need our text. File document is equal to new
And I
list.string.
was
Yes,
having a bit of
can you hear me, Tinashe?
connection issues.
Awesome, no problem. You're still here.
It's
So yeah. So as I was just about to finish with the code, so first thing we input our text that we want to put it as a list, because this is like a long list of words, basically a long list of words, and for us to analyze it properly one by one, we put it in a list. The food and service were unacceptable. All of them is being categorized into a list. It's been put into a list. And then after that, we put it into Azure. We bring it to Azure for us to analyze the text. That's what this method does. Analyze sentiment, result collection reviews, right? And we put the document that we put, and we send it to Azure for it to analyze and give us the result. Basically, include opinion mining. Include opinion mining is equal to true. So we want also the opinions from that opinion that we've put. So as I mentioned, opinion mining and sentiment analysis. Thereafter that, since we're dealing with a list, we have to output one by one. That's why we used a for each loop, a for each loop, a for each loop, and after using a for each loop, we um, then we start outputting the results that we got from from Azure, basically the results that we got from Azure. As you can see, for each the results that we got, and we outputting it, the text that was used, and the positive, negative, neutral scores that came out, and then the same thing um, for each sentiment and opinion that we used, as you can see via the code. And then after that, we output whatever the result is. So all of these are, so this is the last one way to output the result. And last but not least, we output it in our main method, right? So we're gonna go to our main method and output the text. So the first thing we're gonna write, we're gonna take out contour the right line, we're gonna remove it. Uh, this is frozen again. This is frozen again. This is frozen again. And then I've just pasted it. Forgot a comma over there, and the comma is gone. So now, first thing that we did was get the endpoint and the credentials from Azure. You see, we created a variable over there with it. As you can see, we created a variable with it to store it, and we need it, so we're calling it back. And then after that, we call the methods that we want. Sentiment analysis example, right? So this is an example of the sentiment analysis, right? And now this is a sentiment analysis with opinion mining. So those are the two methods that we created, and we output the results. Let me run it for you to see. But one thing that I didn't do is put my endpoint keys. That's what I'm gonna do now. So I'm gonna go back to Azure. As you can see, I'm on Azure. Keys and endpoint. Keys and endpoint. Copy my key. It's private. It's private. So put it there. You paste it in between the inverted commas. Put my endpoint key there. Um, put my endpoint key back to Azure. Back to Azure. Pieces acting up. Um, okay, now the system is responsive. Sorry about that. So now we're going to the endpoint to get the endpoint. So basically, the endpoint is like the address on Azure. So the address to the application that we're making, that's the endpoint. I'm gonna place it there in our variable for us to see. So I've placed the endpoint, I've gotten the keys, I've created my two methods, an example and one example with opinion mining in it as well. And now we're gonna run it to see exactly how it looks like. We're gonna run it. Hopefully my PC is responsive now. Uh, run it, run it, run it, run it, run it, run it, run it. Let's see the results. The results. And there you go. As you can see, so the first sentence that we put, I had the best day of my life, was a positive sentiment, right? And then the scores were 1.0, -0, and neutral 0. So that means it was neither negative or neutral. It was just clearly positive, as you can see. And then the second one, I wish you were there with me, was a neutral statement. As you can see, why is it neutral? Because the scores were 0.1 for positive, -0.02, and neutral 0.77. So as I said, if it's clearly 1, it's positive. If it's between 0, near 0, it's negative. If it's in between, that means it is neutral, as I mentioned earlier on. And then now we're looking at the data mining part. As you can see, 0.84, 0.16, it gives us more information about the sentiment analysis that we just analyzed. For example, the food and the service were unacceptable, but the conceit were nice. The sentiment is positive. Why is it positive? 0.84, positive score negative 0.16, and neutral 0. So it's the positive score is higher for it to be. And then it tells us exactly what about it was negative and positive. So target food, right? Food was negative, right? The food was negative 0.01. The positive score was less, negative 0.99. And then, um, as you can see for the results, as you can see for the results. And then lastly, to move on, we're gonna do we're gonna do take identifying the language. I don't know if Tinashe is coming back right now. Identifying the language. Let's detect the language now. So that was a text analysis. That was text analysis. Now we're going to identify the language. Identify the language. So this one's supposed to be there. And identify the language. Identify the language. Okay. So now time to identify the language. So to identify the language, we're gonna have to do the same thing that we did just now. We're gonna create our methods. After creating the methods, we're gonna put in an example and just call it out in the main method. And how exactly do we do that? You start by creating your keys on Azure and your resource on Azure. If you want, you can use the same one, which we're gonna do as well. We don't need to recreate it because we're gonna use the exact same one. And thereafter, you're gonna go back. Let's go back to the code. So first things first, create your resource on Azure. If you've already created, you can use the same one as we're doing right now, and you put in your keys and your endpoint as we did before. And then after that, we're gonna create a method to detect the language, right? We're gonna create a method to detect the language. So let's put it at the end because now we're detecting the language. Detecting the language. So as I said, I've done the code before. Example method for detecting the language of text, as you can see. Now, what about this? So static void, name of the method, text client and client. So those are the objects that we're pulling through. And then detected language is equal to detected language. Client.detect language. We put the text that we want to the language, the words of the language that we want. So this one is in French. The said document est rédigé en français. So that's why it says in French. And then we say console the right line language, you output it, and we also output the ISO standard of the language. And then after that, we call the method in our main method. Call the method in our main method, and thereafter we are done. And let's run it. See, I don't know if Tinashe is back. Let's give him a call. So as you can see, the results are still the same, but now we've added French.iso. So the language that we put is French, and then it tells us that international standard order of the language. Now the number is there. Um, let's try another word, another language. Hello, right? We know that it's English. Let's run it again. Let's run it again. And there you go. It says English, right? So what we can see there is that we just analyzed text, that we just analyze the sentiment of the text, how the person is feeling or what the person was feeling when they said what they said. So the person was feeling positive. It had a positive sentiment. What about it made it positive? It was the positive. The scores was 1.0 or 1, and if it's 1 it's positive, or closer to 1 it's positive. If it's closer to 0 or 0 itself, it's negative. If it's in between, that means it's neutral. So that's what you must get. And then we also talked about opinion mining. For opinion mining is finding out more information about finding out more information about the sentiment analysis that we just analyzed, the text that we just analyzed. We're finding out more information about it, as you saw in the example. And last but not least, we just did a small example to detect the language, to detect the language. So this application will be up on a GitHub repository, as you can see, but it's a very simple way of doing it. As you can see, what the code that I just did here, the code, I explained the code clearly, and I hope that everyone understands and gets something from it as well. So that's the end of today's episode, and stay tuned. Everyone's busy, but we'll be sure to upload episodes regularly and more more consistently. So may you enjoy the rest of your evening. Our host Tinashe was not here, has connection issues, but we'll be sure to see you next time. Please don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about Inspire S, and keep on learning more and get inspired. Thank you.